Hey guys, sacroiliac issues. What are they? How do you know if you have them or not? And if you do, what do you do about it? We're going to explore a little bit of that today. I'm Frances, founder of Tailored Fit Wellness, and we're going to go into a little bit of exploration about how we test our sacroiliac joint for balance, and then what we do to balance it out, and then how to strengthen once we have balanced, and then retest. All right? Ready, guys? Let's hit the mat. First thing we're going to do is test out if we have any issues. One simple way we can check is to test our balance. So start with your feet a comfortable distance apart. Shift your weight into one foot. Come to the tip of the other toe. And then just raise that knee to hip height. Test your balance there. And then come back down. Ground through both feet for a moment. Lift the other knee. Check to raise that thigh level to the floor. Test your balance, and then come back down. Let's do a couple more times that, like that. Shift, lift one thigh to hip height, and come back down. Other side, shift and lift. And again, we're just noticing how our balance feels on one side and then the other. Okay, so what is the sacroiliac joint? It's basically what I call the dimple spots in your low back. Okay, so it's where your hips are related to it, in that if your hips are tight, your SI joint, that's where your pelvic halves meet your sacrum in the dimple spots. If your hips are tight, then you could be causing more motion in that SI joint that is needed, or you could have some tightness. So what you want to do is, as long as you're comfortable with your knees, you can sit in what I call the Z sit, that's foot to knee, and we do hands to hips, and we tilt the pelvis like we're spilling water out of the back of the pelvic bowl. And then tilt the other direction so you're spilling forward. Exhale as you spill back, and inhale as you spill front. Again, exhale, spill back. Inhale, spill front. One more, exhale, spill back. And inhale, spill front. Let's do fingertips to the floor. Take one hand to your thigh bone, roll the thigh bone in, lift the hip, and press the hip forward toward your front knee. Roll it out. And again, roll and press. So you're lifting the hip and reaching the hip toward the front knee. And then let's add a spiral in the spine. Lift, press, look behind you. Take a big breath in, and then roll out to face forward again. Lift, press, look, and face forward. Again, lift, press, look, and face forward. One more. Here we go. And face forward. Take a moment and switch the legs to the other side. So I like to name this one rock and roll. So you do pelvic rocks, and then you roll the thigh bone in the hip socket, lifting the hip, and so on. So spilling back, there's the pelvic rocks, back and front. Right, your spine goes into flexion and extension, like a C curve from the side view, and then the opposite C curve, right, both directions. But what we're really looking for, although you gain mobility in the spine, nice movement in the spine, I should say, we're really looking for mobility in the hips, right? So you might find that you feel like you got to sit off kilter a little bit if there's some tightness there. Again, make sure the knees feel A-okay. So just one or two more times. Spill back and spill front. This is the rock part. Now fingertips to the floor, hands to the thigh, rolling in, and then you can add the spiral in right away if you like. I usually like to do two of just the hip, just to kind of get the idea for the hips. But if you've done this a couple times already, you may be familiar with it. If you're attending class with me, we do this from time to time, so you'll already be familiar, and this will be a reminder. Let's do two more like this. It's a nice spiral throughout the spine. It feels so good. So this is a balancing exercise. If you have any tightness in the hips, that can affect the SI joint. Remember, we said that's the dimple spots in your low back, right? Where the pelvic halves and your sacrum meet. Let's do one last one. Okay, so what I want to do is retest. So remember, the first test we did was to stand and check your balance. So we're going to just do that again, hands to hips. Shift your weight into one foot and lift the knee to hip height. Notice if your balance feels more steady. Right? Hopefully it does. And then we can tell there's been some benefit from our mobilization / balancing exercise. So one more time each side. You want to keep the pelvis steady and in place as you move the thigh. Now, if you feel that you're steady and that is good, then we've done some good balancing there. And the next thing to do is to strengthen the muscles that cross that joint. The easiest ones to get to are the gluteus maximus muscles, your tush. So a simple way we can work on that is to widen the feet, do arms wide, and come into goddess pose. So we're going to bend the knees. You can bend the elbows. The arms are kind of secondary. It's really about the legs on this one. But just working to push your heels into the floor. See if you can feel your glutes work. We'll get the arms in as we are working on this as well. Why not? Let's do a couple more times like this. Bend and press. And so you can do a number of repetitions of those. We're bilaterally strengthening the glute muscles. Another way we can do that is to come onto our abdomen. Stack your hands, rest your forehead on the back of your hands, bend the knees, flex the feet. Separate your knees just a little bit, and to work both sides of the glutes at the same time, in abdominals firm, hips pressing to the floor, lift the soles of your feet toward the ceiling. You're going to feel your tush muscles working. So lift and hold, 2, 3, 4, and release. So as you lift the soles of your feet toward the ceiling, you may or may not get some lift of the thighs off the floor. If you don't get the lift, that's okay. If you do, that's great. What you want to really feel is that your tush is working. Lift and hold, 2, 3, 4, and release. And lift and hold, 2, 3, 4, and release. Again, lift and hold, 2, 3, 4, and release. Let's do a couple more like this. So bilaterally strengthening the glute muscles. So just to recap, we did a test, we did a rebalancing or a release exercise for the hips. In the Z sit, we did the rock and roll. We retested to see if your balance felt better. Hopefully it did. And then we worked for strength in goddess pose, and then also lifting the soles of the feet toward the ceiling as you're on your abdomen, feeling your glutes working, right, all at the same time. Now, if you have any issues with your knees, I'm going to give you an alternative to the Z sit exercise that we did in the middle there, right? So if you need a milder exercise for your knees, then you can do that same thing, lying back on the floor. We can do a variation. So let me just kind of show you how this relates, right? So we did the rock and the roll, just as a reminder. Okay, so the rock variation, lying on your back. So we're doing pelvic rocks, low back pressing to the floor, pelvic wheels into reverse motion if you have wheels on either side of the pelvis, and then low back arching, so you make space between your low back and the floor. Exhale, press, and inhale, arch. Now, rocking the pelvis just a couple times, and then what we're going to do is let one thigh come out to the side, come onto the edge of your foot. So this simulates the first part of that exercise from earlier. Top knee just up, right? So low back presses and low back arches. And so again, if you have knee issues, this is just a little bonus exercise, right? So you're going to not maybe feel comfortable doing the exercise seated as we did earlier, right? So you're going to make sure that you take an option that feels comfortable in your body. And the goal here is just to really relax that hip with the thigh out to the side. Now that's the rock. Now the roll part, the foot that's on the floor, push that into the floor, let your hip reach over. Okay, so you're going to feel some engagement of the glute in the back body there. Push. It's as though you're trying to roll over, but you're not really going to go very far. Just a couple more times like that. Maybe you'll do 6 of each of these, right? You can just kind of work as this rebalancing exercise helps you to just get engaged in the right places and release in the right places in the hip and tush area. So feet on the floor. Other thigh out to the side, starting with the pelvic rocks. So you can do 1 or 2 in the middle here just to kind of get yourself ready, and then thigh out to the side, and then just low back presses and low back arches. Abdominals can pull in as an extra bonus. Couple more times, breathing. Let's do 2 more like that. 1 more. And then press that foot into the floor, and the hip reaches over, right? So upper outer glute, gluteus medius engages. Press halfway as though you're halfway trying to roll over. Should feel like a nice release in your low back. A couple more times. Let's do 2 more like that. And 1 more. Okay, that's it, guys. So a couple exercises to check to see how your balance feels, testing out what's happening in the SI joint, possibly balancing out the mobility in the hip area, and then working for strength, retest, and then we did a little strengthening, and then a little bonus was kind of the variation so that you can do that exercise if your knees are maybe not so happy in the upright position. All righty, hope that helped. Have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. Take care. Thanks, guys. Bye.